I remember the day they sent her up the ridge. The wind wouldn't quit hollering, and the trees bent like they were ashamed. Calla Mae Granger, no more than 17, sat stiff in the back of her father's buckboard wagon, belly just barely beginning to show beneath her threadbare dress. Her father didn't look at her. He only snapped the reins, jaw set like carved iron, eyes fixed forward as if he could outpace the sin he thought she carried. Jonah's Gap was a town made of splinters and judgment. Folks watched from porches and behind curtains, whispering through cupped hands and crooked grins. That's what happens, they said, when a preacher's daughter don't know her place. They never asked who the father was. It was easier that way. Easier to blame the girl, easier to forget the boy. She didn't cry as the wheels rattled over frozen earth, but her fingers twisted in her lap like they were praying to be anywhere else. Hours passed until the trail gave way to trees too thick for the wind to slip through. The mountains rose like old gods, and there, tucked into the bend of a ridge, stood a cabin, smoke curling from the chimney, woodpile stacked neat as scripture. Bo Mercer stepped out from the shadows. He was tall, thick in the shoulders, hair long and tangled, beard covering half a face already marked by some long-ago war. He didn't speak, just nodded, his eyes more sad than stern. Calla thought he looked more bear than man. The wagon stopped. Her father hopped down, handed over a folded paper, and turned away without a word. She stepped down on her own, her boots touching ground like she'd entered exile. Bo didn't offer a hand, just motioned toward the door. The cabin smelled of pine sap and tobacco. Pelts hung on the walls, and herbs dried in bundles from the rafters. There was one bed and a loft. He pointed upward, then walked to the hearth and stirred the fire. He didn't speak much in those early days. Neither did she. The silence between them wasn't cruel. It was careful. She swept the floor. He brought back game. She boiled beans. He sharpened his axe. At night, she lay awake listening to him breathe on the floor below, wondering what kind of man said yes to taking in a stranger girl and her unborn shame. One night, when the wind moaned like an orphan, she asked, barely above a whisper, "Why'd you say yes to me?" His answer came slow. "Figured you needed somewhere warm." That was all. Time slowed on that ridge. Snow fell like ash. Calla chopped wood until her hands blistered. Bo bound them in cloth without a word. When her ankle twisted on ice, he carried her inside like she weighed no more than a basket of apples. Set her gently by the fire. Didn't look away when she winced. She began to notice things. How he would leave extra coffee in the tin for her. How her shawl would appear on her shoulders each morning, though she never remembered grabbing it. How one afternoon, a carved wooden horse was left on the rail of her loft, unfinished but tender in its shape. She began to soften, not in body, but in spirit. Bo Mercer wasn't the man the town said he was. He didn't touch her. He didn't ask for anything. He simply made space for her to breathe. And that, more than any prayer, began to save her. Then came the day the past rode up the ridge. A young man, fancy coat, smug grin, appeared on horseback. She knew him before he spoke. The one. The boy whose mouth made promises and whose hands made ruin. He tipped his hat like it was a joke. "Didn't think you'd go through with it," he drawled, eyeing her belly. "Guess Daddy didn't take kindly." Bo stood on the porch, arms crossed, still as stone. The boy leaned in his saddle. "You'll come back begging, Calla. Ain't no future here with a hermit." Bo didn't flinch, just said, low and clear, "You need to leave." The boy scoffed, but then Bo stepped forward, only a little, and the air turned to ice. The horse bucked. The boy swore, and just like that, he was gone. That night, Calla didn't thank Bo, didn't have to. He just placed a blanket over her again, the same way he always did. Weeks passed. Then one stormlit night it began. Pain split her spine like lightning. Water hit the cabin floor. She screamed. Bo was beside her in an instant, hand steady, voice calm even when hers wasn't. Hours passed. The storm raged outside, but inside there was a fire and a man who held her hand like it was holy. When the baby finally came, it cried. So did Calla. Bo wrapped it in flannel, held it in his arms as if it might crumble, then looked to her with eyes full of awe and uncertainty. He didn't move until she nodded. She took the baby and looked at Bo through tears and breath and exhaustion and said, "You didn't treat me like a sin. You treated me like someone." He didn't answer, but he smiled. Seasons changed. The baby grew. Calla walked barefoot on the porch, humming lullabies. Bo carved by the door, quiet as ever. Some days she read aloud. Some nights he'd hum a song she didn't know but wished she did. No papers were signed. No vow spoken. But love, like spring water, finds its way, slow and soft, until even the hardest ridge begins to bloom. And if you're still listening, if you're still out there wondering if shame can be burned off or exile turned holy, let me tell you this. Sometimes the places they send you to be forgotten are the very places you are finally seen. And sometimes the people the world calls broken are the ones who know how to hold you without breaking anything at all.